It's midday in Dakar and Monrovia, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to NewsLink. Let's begin with our top stories. German government affirms its commitment to military cooperation with Niger.
With Germany, we have enjoyed cooperation since 1961. The cooperation has known ups and downs, but in the last 5 years, it has been very active, especially in the fight against terrorism.
More than 1,000 Senegalese journalists trained ahead of the February 2024 presidential election. And in Nigeria, small businesses and daily transactions struggle as bank shortages escalate.
The other day I went to the market, like twice. I went the first day. All the banks in that market, there was no cash to dispense.
Not the case of buying dollar again. You had to buy naira.
But I've been in the bank. I was in the bank for about 2 hours. I couldn't get any cash.
Meanwhile, Sierra Leone takes delivery of the first batch of anti-malaria vaccines for nationwide vaccination of children under 5. Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with NewsLink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, and Liberia. The Nigerian state has received assurance from the German government for a continued dedication to enhancing collaboration between the two. During a working visit to Niamey, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, in discussions with the Minister of National Defense, Lieutenant General Salifu Modi, declared on Tuesday the continuation of Berlin's military partnership with Niamey. The renewed commitment between Niger and Germany emerges shortly before the anticipated complete withdrawal slated by year-end of over 1,000 French troops stationed in the country, primarily for counter-terrorism efforts. Imo Edit tells us more.
The meeting between General Salifu Modi and Boris Pistorius sealed the strengthening of military cooperation between the two countries. For Niger's defense minister, the revival of cooperation as a whole is a good initiative. General Modi believes that for reasons of sovereignty, Niger's response will be made with the consent of its people.
Avec l'Allemagne, nous avons une coopération depuis 1961.
With Germany, we have enjoyed cooperation since 1961. The cooperation has known ups and downs, but in the last 5 years, it has been very active, especially in the fight against terrorism. We have with Germany developed training centers for NGOs, and we have also developed other projects together in the context of military transport. We are in the process of the next project, which is the construction of a military reference hospital. And as far as cooperation is concerned, we have told foreign troops in our country their presence must pass through the test. And in this context, we will see with the Germans the new conditions.
Leur présence doit passer par des tests. Et dans ce cadre, nous allons voir avec les Allemands les nouvelles conditions.
The Sahelian state, it said, remains open to the resumption of cooperation projects with Germany. The coup d'etat on 26 July caused friction between Niamey and Berlin, affecting the security cooperation installed for some time. It should be noted that the former colonial power France, which has a military contingent comprising 1,500 troops primarily stationed in Niger, is expected to complete its withdrawal by year-end. Operation Barkhane's pull-out followed a request by the Nigerian junta led by General Abdurrahman Tiani.
Imo added with that report. Now, reports emerging from Burkina Faso suggest that 4 French agents from the General Directorate of External Security in France have been detained since their arrest in early December in Ouagadougou. A Pan-African media, Jeune Afrique, citing a French diplomatic source, disclosed that 4 agents on an official mission are accused of espionage by the Burkinabe authorities. According to the same source, the 4 who were seized a few days after their arrival are currently detained and being interrogated in Burkina Faso's main prison in the capital. It is also reported that talks mediated by the Togolese authorities are underway between the two services of the two countries to obtain the release of the 4 agents. More on security, the Ghana police have initiated a search for individuals connected to a violent disturbance that disrupted the ongoing district assembly elections in the Senya electoral area in the capital, Accra. Reports indicate that the suspects were involved in actions leading to the damage of electoral materials and causing injury to an individual. Swift intervention by a police reinforcement team successfully restored order amid the chaos, while the Electoral Commission was compelled to suspend the elections in the affected area. Meanwhile, the opposition National Democratic Congress (NDC) has voiced criticism against the Electoral Commission, citing what they perceive as a subpar performance due to a range of challenges. From Accra, WADR's Nadia Tete reports.
The local elections conducted on December 19 were marred by a plethora of challenges. Issues ranged from the late delivery of voting materials to instances of ballot paper inaccuracies. Several printing companies did not meet their delivery obligations promptly, leading to a deficit of ballots in certain electoral areas. As a result, the Electoral Commission rescheduled the election in part of the Ashanti and Eastern regions to Thursday, December 21, expressing regret for the disruptions caused. However, for candidates in the impacted areas, the belated apology offered little solace. Many had gone great lengths, even arranging transportation and meals for voters. Subsequent reports revealed that the challenges were not isolated to just the Ashanti and Eastern regions. The central and northern regions also experienced issues. The opposition NDC was quick to point fingers at the Electoral Commission, casting aspersions on their efficiency. Specifically, the party questioned the leadership capabilities of the Electoral Commission's chairperson, Jean Mensah. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Gbande, was vocal in his criticism.
What explanation would you give apart from concluding that she has not demonstrated competence, she has not demonstrated her ability to understand electioneering process? Now, if you have contracted vendors 12 hours into an exercise, delivery have not been made, yet you have assured the whole country that you are ready, it means you are not competent.
Further intensifying the scrutiny, local governance analyst Dr. Richard Fiadomo denounced the actions of the Electoral Commission. He cautioned that such incidents could exacerbate the already prevalent historically low voter participation witness in district-level elections.
It's just legendary. The media, the minister, everybody is making efforts to make sure that we get people to come out to come and vote. Here we have people coming out to come and vote only to be told that they cannot vote the day that they know they have vote. They should go and come back on Thursday. I can assure you, we will not have even 40% of the people who came today to vote and were asked to come and vote. So,
for WADR, Nadia Tete, Accra.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
Here in Senegal, more than 1,000 journalists and media professionals have been trained ahead of the country's February 2024 presidential election. The National Council for Media Regulation, CNRA, and the Convention of Young Reporters in Senegal, CJRS, completed a series of training workshops in Dakar, the capital, and other parts of the country to ensure accurate coverage of the coming elections. Mugui Maram Injai, president of the CJRS, said the workshops aim to familiarize participants with the electoral code, which has recently been amended.
Pour l'élection présidentielle prévue le 25 février, nous avons décidé ensemble donc de
For the presidential election on February 25, we decided to tour the country to better equip our members. In all, we organized 8 workshops in the regions, ending with Dakar, where 50 reporters from the suburbs, cameramen, and technicians took part in the workshop. In total, we directly trained 260 reporters, but indirectly, we trained more than 1,000 reporters, simply because a rivalry is available to help reporters understand how to ensure good media coverage during elections. The training focuses on 2 aspects. First, the electoral code, which has recently been amended. For us, it's vital to train these reporters on the content of the code and its prohibitions, and on how we should do our job during the campaign, during the election, and even after the results are announced. As you know, our country, Senegal, has recently experienced political tension, so it's good for us to invite these reporters to be much more responsible in dealing with the misinformation and hate speech we see from time to time.
L'autre aspect également, comme vous le savez, c'est une élection qui intervient dans un contexte particulier au Sénégal. Dernièrement, on a noté pas mal de tensions.
Waigaya Maram Njai is president of the CJRS. Now, members of the National Assembly in the Gambia have initiated discussions on the Public Order Amendment Bill 2023, aiming at revising Section 5 of the legislation. The proposed change intends to align Sector 5 of the Public Order Act with global standards, and the directives are set forth by the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. WDR's Banji correspondent Sankule Janko tells us more.
Section 5 of the Public Order Act of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia requires an application for permission to hold any public procession. But the amendment bill introduced by the MP representing Badibu Central, Suleiman Saho, seeks to replace that section. The bill, supported by the minority leader and the MP for Brikama North, Alaji S. Dabo, implies an automatic approval for street demonstration by an individual or group of persons without seeking approval for such. Here is an excerpt of the debate on the floor.
I say what happened in 2000 under this particular law, if it had been amended, would not have happened. What happened in 2016, if it had been amended, would not have happened. And what happened in 2017 at Kanila. That is to say, the honorable member had made assessment of this unfortunate incident and thought it deemed necessary that the colonial law be amended in the 21st century so that it can cope with time and reality.
Other parliamentarians, notably Ibrahim Akante representing Busumbala constituency and that of Banjul South Tumanjai, believe the proposed amendment is in line with international practices.
We are in a democratic nation. Our police institutions are undergoing reforms, security sector reforms. So let's give a try to this, and later we can opt for the changing of the whole act.
If we look at the freedom of assembly under Section 25D of our Constitution, it goes in line with what the honorable member is seeking.
The bill, which lawmakers hope with its checks and balances would give effect to the constitutional right to peacefully assemble, is expected to undergo further scrutiny before proceeding to the third and final reading. But with the worrying security situation in the Gambia and the apparent suppression of civic space as reported by rights groups in countries of West Africa, experts say the executive action of bills like this may be challenging. For NEWSLINK-20 West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
Elsewhere in Nigeria, the ongoing cash shortage in banks across the country continue to burden small business proprietors, petty traders, and citizens reliant on cash for daily transactions. This scarcity has made it increasingly challenging for individuals to cover transportation fares and conduct minor transactions. Compounding the issue, point-of-sale operators are capitalizing on the situation by levying elevated fees for withdrawals. WDR's Abuja correspondent Usman Umar completes the story.
As the festive season of Christmas and New Year approaches, this time typically witnesses a surge in cash transactions. However, in recent weeks, a noticeable scarcity of Naira notes has gripped both banks and automated teller machines, otherwise known as ATMs.
The other day I went to the market, like twice. I went the first day, all the banks in that market, there was no cash to dispense. Then the next day I went back, and then even the banks close by, there was still no cash. And then POS people now are now charging extra just to give you cash.
You had to buy Naira. Not in the case of buying dollar again. You had to buy Naira.
But I've been in the bank. I was in the bank for about 2 hours. I couldn't get any cash, only for me to move to a POS post. And then they are telling me 10,000 is now 400 Naira. I don't really know what is causing all of these things, but I think it's putting us in a more critical situation as citizens of Nigeria and as people living in this country.
In light of this pressing issue, Nigerians are urging the Central Bank of Nigeria, that is the CBN, to address and resolve the dwindling cash availability.
It's really serious. Let them wake up. Let them be sensitive to the plights of the people. Leadership is nothing if you have no followers.
I don't even see any reason behind this scarcity that is coming up again. I thought we've passed that some months back, but it's surprising that it's coming back. So I think government, they just need to be sincere, to be transparent, and then to, like Timaya would say, to pity us.
Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Yemi Cardoso released a statement shedding light on the root cause of the current cash crunch. According to him, the shortage stems from the inadequate execution of the previous administration's currency redesign initiative. This oversight inadvertently fostered a climate conducive to hoarding of available banknotes. Despite the apparent scarcity, Cardoso reassured the public that, based on their assessments, there exists an ample supply of cash. He implored citizens to refrain from hoarding, emphasizing that a collective effort is essential to alleviate the situation. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. German government affirms its commitment to military cooperation with Niger. More than 1,000 Senegalese journalists trained ahead of the February 2024 presidential election. In Nigeria, small businesses and daily transactions struggle as banknote shortages escalate. Still ahead in the news, Sierra Leone takes delivery of the first batch of anti-malaria vaccines for nationwide vaccination of children under 5. We'll also have the press review, guest interview, and a sports update. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Remember, we stream live on wadr.org and live on Facebook on West Africa Democracy Radio English service. We head to Sierra Leone, where the government received 550,000 doses worth $5.5 million of the world's first WHO-recommended malaria vaccine, RTS.S. Procured by UNICEF with the support of Gavi, the delivery will contribute to curbing malaria cases among children under 5 years of age across the country. David Vincent reports.
Malaria remains the number one killer disease of children under 5 in Sierra Leone, with over 100 deaths for every 1,000 children born, accounting for 25% of the under 5 mortality rate in the country and over 1 million hospital visits every year. The countrywide rollout of the malaria vaccine to all children under the age of 2 years will commence in March 2024. In addition to procurement of the vaccines, UNICEF will also be supporting the Ministry of Health's malaria vaccine introduction plan, ensuring informed public engagement, strengthening the cold chain system, and training health staff to administer the vaccines effectively in line with Gavi, UNICEF, and WHO standard global guidelines. These vaccines, according to Rudolf Schwenk, UNICEF's representative in Sierra Leone, are a game changer in the collective fight against malaria. But vaccination alone will not save lives, and they have to continue with other efforts in the fight against malaria, including sleeping under insecticide-treated bed nets. Rudolf concluded that the UNICEF looks forward to the collaboration, sustained commitment, and support of the government of Sierra Leone and all its partners to make the malaria vaccine accessible to all eligible children, so that Sierra Leone will one day become malaria-free.
David Vincent with that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Let's now join Sankule Janko one more time for details of the front pages of the Gambian national dailies, including screaming and banner headlines.
Hello there and welcome to this edition of the Press Review. Let's begin today's Press Review with the Point newspaper. And the Point newspaper's lead story today reads, Health Ministry gives alert amid consistent dust. That's the lead story with the photo of Ahmed Lamin Samateng, the Minister of Health in the Gambia. NAMS reject new local government bill. Member for Latikunda Sabiji had proposed a bill that will allow nominated councillors in the local government area councils to have a voting power. However, his fellow colleagues decided to reject the bill and it was thrown out of parliament. UDP is only party to wipe out current mess. That is another story. Local Government Inquiry Commission takes Christmas break. A woman doped of her money, and that's another story on the Point newspaper. And this one reads, Tika presents broadcasting equipment to GRTS. GRTS is the Gambia Radio and Television Services, and it is the state's broadcaster. Let's move on to the Foreign newspaper, and the Foreign newspaper's lead story reads, Serekunda West Park vendors ask government to protect their businesses. That's the lead story on the Foreign newspaper. Farmers in Yamina complain of hippos destructing their rice fields. This is not new at all. They've been having this experience for as many years as you can remember. Finance Minister says 11 companies to invest
over $2 billion says. Just like the Point newspaper, the Fourier also published this story and reads, lawmakers reject bill seeking to give voting rights to nominated councillors. Fisherman says foreign vessels in Gambia waters destroy their nets. Businessman Alhaji Kebe faces economic crimes theft charges. Now, let's move on to Voice newspaper, and the Voice newspaper's lead story with West situation in Banjul, KM, West Coast region, not indictment of UDP. Family members of 2 detained Fonyi natives appeal for interventions of government and National Human Rights Council. Minister describes HIV/AIDS as public health problem in Gambia. Rent Amendment Bill 2023 not meant to punish landlords, according to Honorable Alajimbo. And finally, let's take a look at the Standard newspaper. And the latest story on the Standard newspaper reads, Gambia eligible for Millennium Challenge again. Board satisfied with country's policy performance. A huge photo of President Barrow and President Biden as the late story on the Standard newspaper. Fatou Bensouda made board member of Eyewitness to Atrocities. Fatou Bensouda is the former chief prosecutor of ICC. And man in court for allegedly raping boy 12. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies, and it's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Sankule Janko.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, on Tuesday, a delegation from Berlin's defense sector led by the German Minister of Defense reiterated its dedication to enhancing collaboration with Niger. Boris Pistorius was received by Nigerian Minister of National Defense Lieutenant General Salif Modi on behalf of the state. This renewed commitment between Niger and Germany emerges shortly before the anticipated complete withdrawal, slated by year-end, of over 1,000 French troops stationed in Niger for counter-terrorism efforts. Recall the dynamics between Paris and Niamey had become strained following the July 26 coup that ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. International relations expert Morgan Asoba has been speaking to WEDR on this development.
Well, this shows once again that there is no more, let's say, unity in terms of general foreign policy among the European countries. If you want to be more extended, you will simply say among the main actors of the international scene. So Germany is simply looking for its own interest, national interest, and we all know what is happening within the international scene, and especially what the Sahel represents for the various challenges that are upcoming for the European countries and for the rest of the world. And when we are talking about challenges, in this specific case, we are referring to the issue of energy and the big projects that will transit through Niger. So Germany is just doing the right thing for the German people, and many other countries will definitely follow.
Do you think Niger would benefit from this cooperation? And if yes, how?
Well, the probability exists, but this is not what you and I actually think. This has to do with how the diplomats of Niger, the leaders of Niger, will make sure that whatever agreement they have with Germany, they should be capable of taking advantage fully from the agreement. If it is not a win-win situation of 50%, at least Niger should be capable of taking over the profits as far as the agreement is concerned. It's all about how strong every single negotiator or diplomat is at the table of the negotiation, and how they handle and monitor the effectiveness of the agreement.
Morgan Asogba, international relations expert. And in the world of sports, Côte d'Ivoire's ASEC Mimosa secured a 3-0 victory over Joannek Galaxy Mumbabashi to maintain their climb from the CAF Champions League on Tuesday. Goals from our junior Assis Aka and a last-minute strike by William Karamoko secured the 3 points for the Ivorian side. One of the few West African clubs in the competition, Mimosas continued to impress this season. The victory kept them top of their group ahead of Simba SC in Group B. More on international football. African stars, former Manchester United and Cameroon midfielder Eric Demba says Andre Onana must think of his career when he decides whether to miss part of the Premier League season to go to the Africa Cup of Nations in January. Indomitable Lions goalkeeper Onana could miss more than a month of United's campaign if he joins his country squad at the tournament in Cote d'Ivoire. The 27-year-old who ended his international retirement in September has come under scrutiny during a poor start to the season for United, which has seen them knocked out of Europe and well off the pace domestically. And that ends it for Sports Update. And that's how we wrap up this edition of NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukedi and Maodo Diouf for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's gender program 50-50 with Na Didi Tete, and that will lead at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. when the second edition of our bulletin in French Info Chez Vous comes live. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NewsLink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County. For you listening via Radio Pad